What's the creepiest thing you've seen in remote areas? Wilderness, small towns, on water, or aboard aircraft vessels? 1. I was driving home after a very late night at work, living in the middle of nowhere, about a mile from home. A blood-covered woman jumped out of the woods into the road, screaming. Panicked, I swerved around her, slammed on the brakes, and stopped to help. She said her boyfriend had beaten her and was chasing her through the woods. I got her into my car and called the police, who met us at the hospital because I refused to wait by the roadside with him approaching. 2. Over 18 years ago, I drove from Louisiana to my hometown in Montana, then continued to Boise, Idaho, in February to avoid dangerous mountain roads. I took I-90 through Washington on a foggy Sunday morning, needing to use the restroom but wary of stopping due to poor visibility. I saw signs for a small town, possibly Linden or Linda, near Spokane Valley. The town was eerily deserted, no people, cars, or sounds. At a gas station, there was no attendant, and the restroom was locked. A Coke delivery truck sat in the road, hazard lights on, doors open, but no one around. Feeling uneasy, I left, drove to Spokane, and forgot my need to stop out of fear. Later, I couldn't find the town on a map. In Boise, my friend thought I was making up a Silent Hill story, but the experience still haunts me. If you know a town on I-90 between Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Spokane, Washington, please let me know. Recently, I've considered returning there for my 37th birthday to investigate. 3. While exploring a city at night in a ruined church, I noticed a circular pattern on the floor of one level. Possibly where a pulpit once stood, there was fresh blood on it, as if something had been killed there. Later, in the basement, we heard someone running upstairs. I'll check if I have photos, but if they're on my desktop, it might take a while since it's fried. 4. When I was very young, my family went on a trip, and my brother and I were boating. I remember my mom telling us to stay away from a large floating object, thinking it was a buoy marking a dangerous rock. Being kids, we explored it. It turned out to be the body of a tourist missing for a week, as the police informed us days later. The creepy part is he was one of several people who went missing together. I believe they never found the others. Not a pleasant childhood memory. 5. Over 18 years ago, I worked in weatherization for low-income homes, installing doors and insulation to lower energy bills. Part of the job was checking combustion appliances to ensure they didn't leak carbon monoxide, which could be deadly in a sealed home. At a suburban house, I asked to see the water heater in the basement. The homeowner moved the fridge in the kitchen, revealing a basement entrance under the rug, something I'd never seen in thousands of homes. Using a flashlight to check for black widow spiders, I spotted a cat skeleton. Further down, I saw at least 10 other animal skeletons, some too decomposed to identify. The homeowner stood silently at the entrance, hand on the door. A sense of danger hit me. I was 4 steps from a closable door, alone, with a hidden entrance. I made an excuse about needing tools, left, and marked the job unsafe. I'm unsure if I was truly in danger, but the fear and sense of doom linger. Sometimes you don't take chances. Sir, edit. I didn't report to the police because animal skeletons in basements are common. They get trapped. This case was extreme, but working with low-income families taught me not to make their lives harder. I'm proud my work improved their lives, and 1 minute of fear wasn't enough to report. 6. I found a deer with its hindquarters eaten, a coyote with its hindquarters eaten a few feet away, and a fox with its hindquarters eaten a few feet further. Nothing else was there. No bullet holes, arrow marks, or signs of other animals or people. No tracks either. Truly creepy. Found in the hills of West Virginia. 7. My friend and I went camping in the mountains with our 4x4. I woke up at night to pee, turned on the headlights, and walked away from camp. While relieving myself, I heard rocks crunching behind me, like someone stepping on them. Anxiety surged. I finished, turned, and my headlights dimly lit the area. I saw about 20 pairs of eyes staring at me. I stopped breathing, frozen. Then I heard a blessed goat sound. It was a damn herd of mountain goats drawn to the commotion. Nearly gave me an aneurysm. 8. While hiking a nature trail with my boyfriend, we found a torn alligator tail and leg. The rest of the body gone. I panicked, wondering what could kill and eat an alligator. And I didn't want to meet it. We cautiously continued, and a few hundred feet later, we saw a massive alligator, at least 10 feet long, carrying a smaller dead alligator in its mouth. That's when I learned alligators are cannibalistic. 9. I'm a night owl and often stayed late in my university's computer lab, open until 2 a.m. Walking home, I saw 4-6 people in burlap robes and huge hoods sitting cross-legged on the lawn. The next morning, they were still there, an art installation made of wire mesh and burlap. 10. On the Cowlitz River, Washington. In the early 90s, I was camping with my dad, sister and friends. Something threw rocks and sticks at our camp. We shone flashlights and saw reflective eyes and a tall figure. It kept throwing things for about 15 minutes. We built the fire high. The next morning, I woke to heavy footsteps and a foul smell. I alerted my dad, who shook the tent and yelled. Whatever it was ran off. 11. My girlfriend and I were hiking along abandoned train tracks and reached a small bridge over a creek. I was about to explore beneath when she pointed something out across the woods. We saw a guy. I shrugged and headed down to the creek, but the guy stood up naked. We quickly turned back, and after a minute on the trail, I looked back to see the naked guy standing in the middle, watching us leave. 12 years ago, my friend Levi and I frequented a beautiful spot in the woods. A half-acre meadow with clear ponds, accessible via a 1-kilometer hike through a creek and thorns. One time, on our way, Levi ducked into bushes, pulling me along. I thought it was a large animal, but he stared at a hilltop where two people were dragging a lifeless body, tossing it down. It hit trees and got stuck at the hill's base. They fled, terrified. Levi approached, screamed, "It's got holes. It's real. Run." We ran 2 kilometers through brush, seeing the two return to the hill. The next day, we saw 10 fire trucks near the woods. Panicked. We told Levi's parents. His mom laughed, saying it was a dummy. Firefighters were training for search and rescue. I slept soundly that night. 13. Walking on a beach with my boyfriend. We reached a huge cliff to kiss. A man was staring at the ocean, crying and trembling. It was late. Around 9:30 p.m., we asked if he was okay. He apologized and ran down the cliff away from danger. We followed until he reached a public area and called it a night. I'm pretty sure he was about to jump. 14. As a kid, I was hiking with my family and stumbled across a sheep's head. No body, no blood, just a severed head on the trail. It was my first time noticing a sheep's slit pupils, and my first encounter with something so gruesome. 15. In high school, my friend and I were relaxing in the woods when we saw a dog pass by, followed by a confused-looking kid. We asked if he needed help. He said he was watching the dog for a friend, and it ran off. We spent an hour following the kid and dog deeper into the woods. I finally got the dog to come to me, but it had no collar, so I couldn't hold it. We looked away for a few seconds to strategize, and when we turned back, the kid and dog were gone, completely vanished. It was fall, so footsteps would have been audible, but there was silence, no trace of them. Maybe they ran off quickly. Who knows? It was creepy enough to spook us. 16. Around October or November. At 17, I led 60 cadets in a staggered line through the Australian bush to a campsite. I was at the front, with the rear commander holding a flashlight for visibility and to preserve the cadets' night vision. Along the path, I noticed dewdrops sparkling like green gems under my flashlight on both sides. Unable to check while leading, I investigated during a break, shining my headlamp on a cluster. I saw 5 large huntsman spiders, hand-sized, hiding in leaf litter, staring at me. Thousands more were on the ground and trees, all fixated on my light, terrified of spiders. I hurried back to the group, staying calm outwardly, but dreading setting up a tent and spending a week in that spider-infested forest. 17. Near midnight, my boyfriend and I were deep in a large forest near his house, far from any road, while being intimate. He spotted a shadow 20-25 feet to our left, climbing but stopping when noticed. He told me to stay alert. The figure climbed diagonally, aiming above us, and when it was 15 feet directly overhead, it approached. My boyfriend grabbed my hand, and we ran down the hill, reaching the trail in under 2 minutes. Hearing pursuit, we sprinted to a cafe and sports courts with people nearby. Realizing we narrowly escaped robbery or worse, we swore never to return at night. 18. As a Boy Scout, camping in Yellowstone with older friends and an adult. We hiked 2 days and stopped at a beautiful clearing. As the sun set, we built a fire and I climbed a tree to dig a latrine. While squatting under moonlight, I saw a massive cougar silhouetted on a ridge 200 yards away. Staring at our fire, its prowling shoulders were unmistakable. I watched it for 15 minutes until my worried friends called me back. I pointed it out. It just stared. Crazy experience. 19. A few years ago, my boyfriend and I were backpacking in rural Tasmania on a bus. A girl invited us to her town. We declined but took her number. Days later, we called and agreed to visit. They met us at the train station. But I felt an inexplicable dread. They led us out of an eerie, mostly abandoned mining town with dilapidated houses. Their home, at the town's edge, had a single mattress in the living room with a sheet draped around it. The room was full of knives, a tattoo gun, and a small axe. But they didn't hunt, tattoo, or chop wood. A locked door was ignored when I asked about it. Our room was normal, but it was odd. They slept in the living room when they suggested shopping. We agreed to escape. They led us toward a mountain, not the town, claiming it was more interesting. The girl whispered to her partner, "Where's the place?" We panicked, demanded to return, and at a town store, no one knew them. We made excuses, booked a hotel, and left. Later, I learned their house had a hidden room and basement. The mountain path led nowhere near town. We likely escaped danger, or they were just eccentric. The scariest part, no drug paraphernalia explained their odd behavior. 20. While hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, I found a cleared spot free of pine cones or branches for camping. Stepping in, the ground sank, as if freshly placed. I slept there but kept thinking about it. The next morning, it was clear someone had dug and covered the spot. I think I slept on someone's fresh grave. 21. About 10 years ago, I was at my dad's house in Kentucky for the weekend. Appalachian people of Scottish-Irish descent are very superstitious, but my dad wasn't easily scared. At 10 p.m., we planned to get McDonald's. He always walked ahead. I thought to avoid snakes, but now I'm unsure. As he opened the screen door and turned on the porch light, a horrific sound erupted, a piercing screech followed by a crow-like caw. But it sounded human. My hair stood on end. Dad retreated, slammed and locked the door, something he never did, and said, "Not safe. We'll go in the morning." We stayed inside all night. He didn't even smoke outside and brought the dogs in. We went the next morning, but never spoke of it. It's one of my scariest moments. 22. Camping with an ex-boyfriend. We hiked to where a trail ended and found a huge underground cage. While exploring and kissing, we heard children giggling around us. We bolted and never looked back. 23. At 6, with my 3-year-old sister and infant sister. Only we and Mom were home. The baby was napping when she suddenly screamed. Mom rushed to her, then yelled for us. She showed us a perfect, small, human bite mark on the baby's leg, demanding, who bit her. We denied it, as we were together the whole time. Mom punished us with study time, but we knew it wasn't us. At 14:15, reading late at night, I felt cold fingers touch my calf, pressing, then retracting. Panicked, I checked under the bed. Nothing. No one. No items. It was summer. No blankets could have fallen. I was anxious for days. The basement, a maze of Dad's hoarded items, was creepy. At noon, fetching pasta, I saw a white object like a shirt dart behind a shelf. No breeze, no sound. I checked but found nothing. I've feared the basement since. In winter, after reading ghost stories, I asked my sisters about odd events. One said no, but the other described a loud whooshing and a heavy thud in the sunroom at night, like the house shook. She hid in bed. Mom confirmed hearing it, thinking a tree fell or a car crashed, but found nothing outside. My sister insisted it wasn't an animal or person. 24. Camping for our first wedding anniversary in Payson, near the rim. We went to bed. Oddly, we heard only wind through the pines. I fell asleep, but woke paralyzed. With a glowing red light outside our tent, it brightened, and something began unzipping the tent. Frozen, I stared as the door opened. I moved my head, saw my wife's terrified face, mouth agape, as she screamed. I woke no light, just darkness and wind. Nothing had unzipped the tent. Was it a nightmare? I'm scared of alien stories. So maybe my brain played tricks, or a repressed memory. It terrified me. We left the next day. 25. One late evening, I was around a campfire with 4 friends in rural North Carolina. We'd been drinking, and they smoked a bit, I didn't. We took turns telling stories. During a lull, a 6th person's shadow stood and faded into the darkness. All 5 of us swore there was a 6th person, but we couldn't recall distinct features, only that they seemed cloaked in shadow. We packed up and hiked back to a friend's house. Done for the night, Kesiya. 26. Hiking in a state park near home with my boyfriend. We stopped at a small pool in the bushes, formed by recent rains, like a fairy tale lake with a waterfall. As we admired it, I heard growling, thinking I imagined it. I kept listening. A low animal growl. I jokingly told my boyfriend, expecting dismissal. But he said, I hear it too. I scanned around. We seemed alone. We quickly moved on, never figuring out what it was. 27. I'm a long-haul trucker, driving from the Midwest to the West Coast, returning from Los Angeles. I drove at night on I-15 to I-70 through Utah toward the Rockies. As traffic is lighter, the night sky was clear, stars vivid after 6-7 hours. I stopped for lunch at my favorite truck stop. Continuing, my XM radio glitched despite a recent professional install. I saw a light in the sky, assuming it was a plane. Wondering about a new airport after 3 hours in a desolate area. The light persisted. Checking my watch, I realized I'd lost an hour of memory. My dash cam recorded everything but explained nothing. The light stopped. Hovering above me, panicked. I drove back to the truck stop, called my dispatcher, and said, "Screw Trader Joe's cargo. I'm not moving until daylight." I locked the doors, closed the curtains, and slept. The next morning, I checked my body and truck, nothing amiss. I now refuse to drive through the Rockies, sticking to routes east of Nebraska. I can't recall that hour, and that light haunts me. 28. I grew up in a village in the Karakoram Mountains, 40 miles north of Abbottabad, accessible only by mountain roads and hiking. In 1973, at 19, I joined 7 friends, 3 city guys, 4 villagers, to hike and explore a cave rumored to hold a gold vein guarded by jinn, without maps. We relied on landmarks. After a week, we reached an unfamiliar area with boulders, streams, and sparse trees. Exhausted, we slept on tops. I was woken by a friend, told to stay silent. We heard a woman giggling and heavy footsteps approaching. My flashlight showed only trees and rocks. In darkness, giggles and footsteps circled us. We huddled, packed, and prepared to move, impatient. I suggested confronting it. We shouted, "Who's there?" and saw 10 to 12 creatures, not monkeys or humans. 6.5 to 7 feet tall, black fur, round faces. The forest was unnaturally silent, with a strange smell. They vanished when I turned off the light, but we felt watched. Another friend's flashlight revealed a 7-8 foot creature on a boulder, staring, panicking. We recited Quran verses, declaring peaceful intent. A well-dressed woman, about 40, with white hair, appeared, softly saying, "Don't go further, turn back," then vanished. The forest came alive with animal sounds. We waited for dawn and left, never returning. At 65, I still don't know what we encountered. 29. Not me, but a friend, high on drugs, was walking through a large forest at night to get home. He saw a light and investigated, finding masked people around a pentagram with torches and a bleeding dead goat in the center. Terrified, he ran home. He says he still has nightmares, believing he saw some kind of demon. 30. At 15, I visited family in Costa Rica. We had a small, old house in a rural area near San Pedro, on a mountain surrounded by jungle and farms. It was peaceful, with handmade pools and a wooden deck, but isolated, making nights eerie. Strange lights appeared in the forest or sky, and jungle noises were constant. One unusually silent night, my grandma, aunt, uncle, cousin, and I were reading. As there was no internet, a horrific scream, like a woman mixed with a cat, broke the silence, moving from the house to the pool area, accompanied by a thundering sound like a dozen galloping horses. It crossed the pool to a field by the river. Lasting a terrifying minute, we were shocked. My 10-year-old cousin couldn't sleep. The jungle resumed its normal sounds afterward. The next morning, we found hoof prints. A farmer said his horses escaped. But that didn't explain the scream. My grandma said it was La Bruja, a witch, per local legends of goblins and fairies. In remote jungles, who knows what's out there?